Well, hey, everybody. It's the Cryptid Huntress. Thank you guys so much for being here today. I have another fantastic show lined up for us this afternoon, and I have Mike from Abnormal Investigations on his way here. He had a little computer reboot going on there, so we're gonna get him up in just a minute, and yeah, so we're going to be talking about shapeshifters and skinwalkers, dare I say, this afternoon on the show, The Glitch in the Matrix. Mike has been doing some absolutely fantastic investigative work on the Girl Scout murders in Oklahoma that took place back in 1977. June 13th, actually. So that's coming up with the anniversary. And so what's one of his latest exposés he's done on this? He had an eyewitness come forward to some of the aftermath of what had happened there, and so we're going to be talking about that today. And it most certainly does have a connection to ritualistic conjuring, I guess you could say, of Gugway and or shapeshifters of some sort, werewolf type stuff. And so we're gonna be talking about that today. I do see Mike is coming up. So before I bring Mike up, let's see. I'm going to be presenting at the Paranormal Roundtable second annual Dogman and Cryptid conference that's coming up. That's Labor Day weekend in Fort Worth, Texas. I hope you guys will be there. That's going to be such a fantastic event. The information is right there on the clicker. Just exactly what I said. Nothing extra. So I hope you guys will come join me. Meet me in person. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to be making up some Cryptid Huntress merch and have that there, and should have a table and everything. And it's going to be really fun. So please come see me there. There's going to be the biggest, best names in the Dogman community, boots on the ground researchers like myself, and just a lot of interesting people and a lot of interesting stories. Okay. If you guys would like to follow along with all of my shows and what I'm doing, you can find all of my information for those shows at thecryptidhuntress.com. Also, if you'd like to support what I'm doing, y'all can join my Patreon. That's the Cryptid Huntress. And also, I have a shop. It's called War Woman Goods, and that's on Etsy. Shout out to everybody who has thrown your support my way and bought some amazing vintage jewelry from my shop. It really does help what I'm doing. And I love and appreciate all you guys from the bottom of my heart over here at the Cryptid Hunters channel. Okay. Also, y'all know y'all can find me Spaced Out Radio every Saturday and Sunday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. Okay. Well, I see my friend Mike is here. So let me read you a quick little bio here on Mike. And we're going to get this show on the road. And shout out to everybody that's in the chat today. All my moderators that are here. You guys are amazing. And I appreciate all of you. Stephan Michael investigates Bigfoot and other abnormal sightings. His popular YouTube channel, Abnormal Investigations, examines cases from across the country. Mike has had some scary Dogman experiences of his own, and he encourages people to share their stories with him, remaining anonymous. Okay, so please help me welcome to the show today my friend Mike from Abnormal Investigations.
Hello.
Hey, Mike, good to see you this morning or afternoon.
Yeah, I finally got the computer to cooperate.
Hey, it's just a normal day in the office for us with our computer glitches. Okay, that's me too. So it just happens. It's all this high vibe and good energy we got going. I think that's what that is. We're just we've got energy that is it's a little wonky sometimes. Mine is, at least. So
crazy.
It is crazy. Well, you've been using your computer a lot lately, and I have too. You've been putting out some amazing videos, Mike, and really delving deep into investigations and kind of cold cases, I guess, including the Girl Scout murders of 1977 out in Oklahoma. I figured maybe we could talk about that today.
Sure.
Are you cool with that?
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah. I'd love for you to kind of tell the audience today, like, because we have not talked about the Girl Scout murders on my channel with you and I yet. Yes. I would love for you to kind of give a run through of kind of like what happened, the scenario, and then we're going to get into what could have possibly killed those girls, and what your eyewitness told you on a live world exclusive video the other day, about what she knows about it and what might have been conjured up.
Right.
Okay.
I got interested in it. I've actually worked on this case for approximately 1 year. Uh, After looking at the case, I noticed, looking at the case log and going back through the OSBI, which is equivalent to our FBI in Oklahoma. And the FBI also worked on the case along with local law enforcement and everything. There was a lot of statements made in a lot of their paperwork that really caught my interest. A lot of them, it seemed that there could not be just one person that had done this, and also there was I guess you would call it a cryptid part of the case that had the OSBI back then. They really didn't use the word cryptid, but they were calling things unhuman, inhuman, not human. Some, would even talk about a creature in the woods. So I continued following. I'd done like 3 videos and dove really deep, spoke to some, I have contacts in law enforcement that was helping me along, showing me some things. And then I was contacted by an eyewitness. It was 12, 13 years old at the time. After talking with her, it was really clear then that there was something really wild going on. And I was contacted the other day, and this case may possibly, there may be some indictments now that'll come from this case.
Wow.
So, yeah, there's possibly one living person that is still alive that was actually the murderer, and there could possibly be an arrest in the case.
Wow. Does this stem from your investigation that you did in the eyewitness report?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I uncovered
fantastic.
Testimony that had never been heard and witnesses testimony that had never been heard, and it brought, they said, a new light on the case with new material. So 47 years later, a little old YouTube person, and then we may possibly get some indictments. So
wow, good work, Mike. Well, you're actually a law enforcement officer. You've been in law enforcement as a career for a while, and I don't think you're not actively in law enforcement, but you have some background in that.
Yeah, I worked in law enforcement for a little while. I also worked in security, and I had a security clearance with the United States Coast Guard. I was over the largest vault in Oklahoma. We did special holdovers and stuff for the military and a lot of that kind of stuff. I was an investigator for about 12 years. And whenever I got hurt in the line of duty, I then took this up as a hobby because I had lived in it through grannies and stuff like that. So I just started applying my techniques I used in real world to the cryptic world, and ended up on this case. And then now I have another family that has contacted me on a cold case that has asked me to look into it over some murders of some children. So
wow.
We're looking at that right now.
Wow, that's got to be tough. Looking into the murders of children, and I know from being asked to look into it psychically, into things like that, it can be very hard to do, but it brings answers to the family, and there is comfort knowing that you're helping families.
Oh yeah. There's always, the reward of seeing somebody, punished for what they done, especially to children. I take that personally. I have a 10-year-old, and one of the girls in the Girl Scout case, she was 10. They were 8, 9, and 10. So just babies.
They were. I actually have a picture here. Is it okay if we show a picture of these little girls? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. Now I do have a picture. These are the 3 little girls who were murdered in Oklahoma it was June 13th of 1977. Just beautiful, beautiful children there that didn't deserve this at all.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, give us a little rundown of kind of what happened, and I know when I was looking through doing some research myself on the Girl Scout murders, I've heard you talk about the tent that they were in and how they hid stuff underneath the tent. The people who murdered these little girls, and I was thinking, well, how they get something under a tent? But now I see that it's actually elevated on a platform. It's like a little hut kind of thing. So now it makes sense. Now that I was able to go and look at some pictures and stuff of where these little girls were attacked. So
Yeah, I found out some things that we really didn't go. So you'll probably actually be, well, this will be the first time this has really been talked about. Also, we didn't go as deep into this part of it, and it's I think it's just as important. But it was her family members that were involved in the murders, and so it was really hard
mhm.
for her to come forward. She lived with them, and one of the guys involved was her uncle that actually tried to rape and sacrifice her when she was a child. So she has ritualistic damage done. She has a whole psych team of people. Whenever I would speak with her, she had a life coach, a counselor, a psychologist.
Mhm.
We would go so far and have to stop. Go so far we would have to stop. She'd be sick for days. Um,
Mhm.
Under the tent, they had already placed items such as like the duct tape and things like that to secure the girls with, and those kind of things.
Mhm.
And the tent number 8, not only was it the furthest from where the adults were at and blocked by the showers, it also was the closest tent to the fire circle. And I didn't know this until I started investigating. They call those circles in the Girl Scouts the magic circle. And the Girl Scouts,
Yes.
were owned by the Magic Empire out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. That circle that
Mhm.
circle right there that you see right there, it was the closest circle to the tent also that the girls were murdered in. Now there's another circle like that right there that is also on the land adjacent to the property to where the little girls were killed, and they were having ceremonies before the girls had ever arrived. Uh, the little girls, they were brutally murdered. There was a lot of things, that I think they had the murder weapon, because if you read in the OSBI report, the little girls, and
Mhm.
without getting too graphic, their bodies resembled the imprints of two weapons that were found there,
Mhm.
a crowbar and either a framing hammer or an axe
Mhm.
hammer. They argued over that one, but they were very bad disfigured. But the weird thing about the circle is her dad. I guess her dad was probably against what they were doing, and he had went up on their land, and this was right before the Girl Scouts arrived, like 3 days.
Mhm.
And they were having their ritual fire, and they were summoning their gugwe, is what they said. Now, the elders up there, you have to understand, they still practice Indian medicine,
Mhm.
ritual. Uh, it was really unsafe for me to even be up there. I only had a few that welcomed me. They called me good medicine. So whenever I
Okay.
went, it was with an armed security team. It was
Mhm.
pretty wild. We had threats against us, but we continued. And when he went to the fire, he said his brother was there, and he had started to transform. And it wasn't like what he said, that like what we think in a movie. It's
Mhm.
a transformation, he said, but it's not as big. It's more of a. He said you look at somebody that gets really mad or they go crazy, how they can change that look. But it
Yes.
but it was not enough of a weird look that he bit her dad on the arm,
Wow.
and he told his daughter when he was there. He said, whenever I let go of it, it bit me, and he called it an it and not his brother. And he ended up going to the hospital, and the doctor's like, what kind of animal bit you? And he's like, my brother bit me. And they're like, that's not a human bite.
So the teeth had changed too then in his mouth.
Yeah. The veterinarian even came, and the veterinarian said, yeah, this is not a human bite, but they didn't know what kind of bite it was, and they could not hardly get it to heal. And she said her dad carried that scar for a long time. Now, we may talk about this later. I'm not at liberty to discuss the full what happened, but her dad ended up dying in her arms on this property.
Okay.
And I'm trying to get her to come out with that, but that's really hard for her right now. But yeah, there was what they say happens is the natives tell me there's a Googway. It already exists. It's not nothing that's conjured up. It lives in the woods. They actually believe it to be a protector of the woods. It's not an enemy to these people.
Okay, and a Googway, to describe a Googway, that's like a mutated Sasquatch, from what I understand.
Yeah, they call it a face eater.
The face eater, that's right.
Yeah.
Not pleasant sounding.
No, it's not. It's not a nice one at all. And
no,
they believe they summon the spirit up, and if they're mad, say it, Joe Blow across the street, they summon the spirit up, and the spirit will go into the Googway.
We've talked about this before, you and I.
Then they control the Googway. The Googway is then controlled by the spirit.
So it's like a demonic spirit, black magic kind of stuff's going on here, and it's demonically possessed, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like a demonically possessed Googway.
Interesting. Okay.
And
wow.
Yeah,
that's scary.
And she saw it. She seen the creature. She said she saw it, out of her window. And the night that they burned the bloody clothes in the front yard, which that was the same night the Girl Scouts were murdered, they had came back, and she said they were soaked in blood, and they burnt their clothes in the front yard. And that's whenever it looked in the window at her. So it was with them that night, is what she said. Yeah.
So did she ever say that she saw her uncle transform into the beast, or whatever you want to call him?
She never saw him transform, but she saw the beast. She had another uncle.
Okay.
That was just, I guess from what she said, slaughtered. They got a phone call that he'd had a wreck on a dirt road by their house. Her dad loaded her up, and they drove down the road. And he had wrecked, and she said, being a little girl, they had ran up there hoping to help him, and she said it looked like something had just jumped in there and just shredded him.
Okay.
It was horrific.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of wild things going on up in those mountains.
Well, a lot of cover-ups too, and some of these people that you were investigating and looking into, going back into this cold case. It appears that there's a lot of good old boy network kind of up there, and people covering for other people, the police officers covering things up. I mean, it's pretty dangerous for you to even be looking into this, Mike.
Yeah, I've been threatened.
Okay.
You're not supposed to turn on your own, but truth is the truth. And the Sheriff Weaver, he was standing in her front room when she was 13 years old. And he laid the items on the table. And he said, they will find this on Jean Leroy Hart. And those were the same things they found in the cave that linked Jean Leroy Hart to the murder. Honestly, I can't say Jean Leroy Hart was even involved.
Okay.
The more and more I looked into it, the more and more I could understand how he was found not guilty. We had, beyond a reasonable doubt. And I don't believe there was, beyond reasonable doubt, he was guilty there. There was just a lot of things. I mean, inside of the tent, there was female DNA that didn't match the little girls. So that says there was a female involved.
Okay.
There was different size footprints. There was different size fingerprints. One of the weird things, and I thought this was really weird, the footprint they had found in blood, they said that a police officer had accidentally stepped in the blood, and he wasn't being, careful, and he had messed up and contaminated the crime scene. But that same footprint in their own writing was also inside the cave. So that placed
Ooh.
the police officer at both places, but they
Okay.
never do elaborate on that.
Okay, so the cave. Let's back up a little bit and talk about this cave. Because isn't that where the young girl, her dad's brother, was seen transforming into another being, like a beast? Is that where
That
he saw that?
up around the cave, yes. Also the
Okay.
cave where they found, the oh, where he would have done a what they call a smoke,
Okay.
uh, conjuring up a spirit. They found where he had burnt tobacco and ceremonial rituals that he was doing. He was doing a lot of that in the cave, and they were trying to say that it was Jean Leroy Hart, but the Bristol guy that that was we had looked at, she said he was evil. He
Right.
was. She called him Charles Manson evil. Um, and a lot of people in town even said that he went around town bragging about how he had killed these little girls.
Oh
And
no.
yeah, he was
Ew.
bragging. Yeah, and the police. I mean, it just looks like they were so involved. Also, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a scary community. She's in the dark woods where she's at, and where the law enforcement is buddy buddy with everybody.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that she didn't have to, but she chose to come out and talk about something that her family did. That's got to be heartbreaking and horrible. Just to be holding on to that, and then feeling as though you're, letting the cat out the bag, basically, on your family. And it's just she's very brave to have done that. So I have a lot of respect for your witness. I think a
Yeah,
lot of
it was.
us have a lot of respect for her for doing that.
They even moved
Yeah.
one of the buildings to
Yeah,
her
it's very.
property from the
Go
Girl
ahead.
Scout. Oh, from the Girl Scout camp, they moved one of the buildings to her property, and she had seen this murder, and her dad was making her go in that building every day to get stuff, and there was just
Okay.
a lot of weird, sick things. They say that the people around there too that in the investigation, the OSBI said that when they were tracking him, they would chase him through the woods. He would go behind a tree, and then an owl would fly out or a black
Yeah.
dog, and they would
Oh my
lose him.
gosh. I've heard that
He would,
before from other
yeah,
people.
he would be nowhere,
Okay.
and the OSBI would say we have no idea where this guy went. And then while they were doing their investigation, the black dog would show back up, and it would stay, just
Mhm.
out of reach. And they were like, "This is weird." And 20, I believe it was 23 uh, agents would retire after working this case. Three of them committed suicide, and
Uh-oh.
yeah.
Do you think
So
that they really did that, or do you think that someone else might have done it? It's all speculative. You don't have to
yeah.
answer that. Don't answer that. I'm
Well,
sorry, Mike. I have birds trying to get in my window right now. I'm so confused. I have a bunch of birds literally trying to get into my window.
that's kind of
It
weird.
doesn't make sense. I've never had this happen. There's at least 3 birds trying to get in my window. Yeah, okay, let's keep going. Sorry. I had to point it out if you guys are wondering why I'm looking over at my shoulder. This is
I've
odd.
heard a,
Okay,
I heard a
it's
story about a
odd.
bunch of birds one time.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, yeah, it wasn't good. Um, yeah, it was just I don't know. It was disturbing some of the things that had happened. The little girls, I think, were a sacrifice. I believe is what they
Yeah,
were. I think I can't prove it. It's just an opinion, hypothesis. I guess we could say
right.
hypothesis. I think there was
Mhm.
enough evidence to. She, I think Carla Wilhite. There's no way that she wasn't involved. Uh, too many things. She, for her just to go to sleep, hearing all that, um, it's not normal behavior.
Yeah.
And I think the noises that she heard, my opinion was the little girl. See, two of the girls were killed. They thought immediately in the tent. They were because of the amount of blood that was inside of the tent. The third little girl, for some reason, was led outside of the tent to a tree where she was duct taped to the tree.
Oh gosh,
Yeah,
that's horrible.
and I think what she heard was not. I think it was that little girl being choked to death, and
Okay.
she just went to sleep. But she said the rituals were happening so much that they were doing their sweat lodges before the girls showed up, and she said there was no way those little girls were going to go home. They had already planned, they were
Hmm.
going to die, and the stuff was under their tent already waiting for them,
Right.
and that
Yes.
is creepy.
Premeditated.
Oh yeah.
Premeditated. So Ben, I know I'm behind on the comments. I'm sorry, but Ben in the chat was saying so the Gugway was summoned before they were camping, I guess, or did this summon the Gugway when they ritualistically murdered these little girls?
They had summoned it approximately 3 days before they arrived, and
Okay.
had already planned on, I guess, using it. What they believe is to be a shapeshifter or a skinwalker. They use both terminologies. Is the younger the victim that you sacrifice,
Hmm.
and even the closer the relationship, like a family member,
Yeah.
gives you stronger power. So these three little girls, being the youngest at the camp, and then they were, what was weird, were separated and placed in the furthest tent, being the youngest. I just felt that was all set up. And
Yeah.
one of these guys actually went to prison because he murdered his own child and sacrificed it. They,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, they took one lady that was up there. One of the guys had got her pregnant that was doing these rituals,
Hmm.
and they forced her one night. She went, time to go to the hospital, time to have the baby, except for they call all the brothers and they don't go to the hospital. They're driving her up to the circle,
Okay. Oh
and
gosh.
they throw her in the circle and make her give birth to this little baby inside of the circle.
Ugh.
So that, yeah, a
Well,
lot of that.
that's the black magic aspect. That's conjuring. That my show is my channel. I do focus on cryptids, and something that I've really been diving into lately are um, creatures that are being summoned ritualistically through demonic um, circumstances, I guess, or
Right,
satanic rituals, and dark magic, black magic, like. Yeah, and it happens, and that's why I wanted to bring you on to talk about this because this was your witness was a firsthand witness to this, and her family having this happen, and not a lot of people talk publicly about this, and so yeah, I'm proud of you for looking into this, Mike, and I'm honored that you came on my show today to talk about it. So thank
oh
you
no, yeah, I'm
because we need
honored.
to let people know. I think that that bringing the awareness out there that this is happening, and we have a lot of missing children, a lot of children that go missing out of our national parks, out of the front street, out of the front yards,
Right.
and we wonder where these children are going. And this could be an outlet for where these kids are being taken for sacrifices.
Right. Yeah, and I'm honored to be here. It's always a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you.
It, for some reason, a lot of this happens in Oklahoma. We have another place over here in Oklahoma. It's called Goose Island, and it's where a lot of the cult go, and they take doors like off of a house around Halloween, and law enforcement's been called out there many times. They do sacrifices of animals. Uh,
Hmm.
there's been some people killed, and they
Yeah.
believe that by killing somebody on this doorway that they can do a ritual, and they actually open the door, and they believe that they can bring evil spirits in, and they have a person always that's willing to let them use their body as a vessel, and they do a lot of crazy stuff out there. Like they drink blood, and so yeah, it's
Yeah. Well,
pretty
blood
deep.
is a powerful manifestation tool, and yeah, that's something that comes up in a lot of my research, my data that I get when I'm looking into haunted properties and places that like Civil War battlefields, Mike. You know, a lot of times those that land, it requires blood. So not only do they have civil, like tens of thousands of men that died there, but there's suicides on some of that land to this day, and covens and cults and things go out there and do rituals to conjure stuff up. Um, and it's just that it's that land. And portals, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it opened portals or it's just like a gateway to hell. I don't know what it is.
I was lost on that part because I'd never studied it either. So I've consulted
Yeah.
3 different preachers from 3 different religions, and they pretty much give me the same answer. They said the demons are here, and if you welcome them, they'll come. You know,
Oh,
that's pretty
okay.
much, you know.
Well, they ain't welcome in my house. Stay out.
No, I don't
Okay.
need those.
Get
I
out.
got enough. I
Get
got
out of
enough
here.
running around.
I know.
But,
I said
but you
get.
but you say blood, you know, and when
Yeah.
you say blood, one of the things that really caught my attention in the case was that night there was a lot of thunderstorms in the area, so there was heavy rain. And she said, you know, by the time they got to the house, they had to cross a creek. So
Okay.
all the rain crossing a creek, they get to the front yard, and she says they are still covered in blood.
Wow.
So did they put the blood on themselves? You know, there's a
Yeah.
lot of questions, you know.
Well, you hear about throughout history, you know, queens, for instance, soaking in the blood of little girls and
Right.
stuff, and to be young, to live forever, you know, all that kind of stuff. And we hear about stuff like that in the underbelly of society. Excuse me.
I know my allergies are bad today
Yeah,
too.
yes, maybe I shouldn't talk about that. I just realized like my throat chakra is closing up a little bit because I might have this video flagged for talking about this. So maybe I shouldn't. Maybe that's what it is. Um, but yeah, who
They didn't
knows?
flag
It's
mine.
mhm.
They deleted my first release. I had to re-upload, but
Okay.
yeah, they deleted
I
it.
can
It was out
imagine.
for about an hour, and they totally took me off every platform, and I had to go back and re-upload. But after I re-uploaded, so far the videos have stayed up. So
Oh wow. Okay, I did
yeah,
not know this. There's some Beth's saying there's something about being 10 years old too in magic that's powerful, and so that's sad. So 10-year-olds are, you know, there's a certain age group of children that are targeted. From what I understand, it's just that pure innocence and that life force, that energy. Um, and you know what I find really interesting, Mike, is that I was looking at this when I was uploading the pictures. I noticed on this sign for I think it's Camp Scott, right? Let me take this comment down so you can see it. At the very bottom of this sign, let's hide this comment. Might take just a second. At the bottom of the sign, it says magic. If you look really closely under the 1 mile mark, it says magic.
right,
So magic this way. Okay. Um, Now I'm not saying there's anything wrong with magic per se, but you know, makes you
right.
wonder. They have the magic circle. You know, that circle looked very ritualistic, and they did use that for a ritual um, when those girls were killed. Apparently, um,
Yeah, and I found out, and you may know more about this than me. I was looking at another place here in Oklahoma, and it's called the Parallel Forest. And there was
okay,
some people said they'd went in there, and they were followed by these things that were watching them from around the trees. And there's supposedly one of these circles in that forest, and that forest isn't far from Camp Scott either. So these circles are kind of showing up, you know. And I didn't
hmm
even know to look for these. And you know, I don't know if we can say the word. I'll try to. The Magic Empire that owned the Girl Scouts. There is
okay,
another organization that pretty much funds and runs it under a different name.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll say they ride little go-karts at carnivals and fairs.
Oh, okay. I know what that
And
is.
I ran into that whenever I was investigating, and that's where it took me to. They were
Okay.
the
We have small town parades. I know what you're talking about.
yeah, they were funding this at the time.
Okay.
So
Well, there's also, you think about like the Magic Kingdom, right? You know where that is.
right, right.
I mean, this goes deep. It goes really deep.
And and it was sad because these little girls, and there's another part you're probably going to really like. I found
Okay.
this just for you because I know that you would like this.
Oh, okay.
The little girl that was leaving, I've been in contact with the family a little bit, so I won't use her name yet. But one of the little girls that was leaving, she told her mom, "My sister won't come back. They're all going to die."
Oh,
Yeah, and it's actually it's in one of the reports.
wow.
But the little girl, she knew her sister was going to die, and she was telling her mom the whole time, "They're going to die." And and these little girls, I didn't even know this till I really got into it. They were so happy to go because they had sold so many cookies and had
Oh,
worked so
man.
hard to be able to do this. And the parents didn't even know. They thought this was going to be a nice camp. And
Yeah.
Miss Farmer showed up, and she said, when I looked at where my little girl slept, she said, "There's no way I would have slept there." She said, "This
Yeah.
place is scary." You know,
Really?
oh,
Yeah. Dark
it,
energy there,
the
obviously.
trees, the trees were just like hanging over the tents, and the tents are
Okay.
like shoved into these dark areas, and there's no lighting. They had no security lighting. These little
Whoa.
girls were in the middle of the woods in a thunderstorm, crouched in these tents hiding while the killer was doing their thing that night.
I mean, it's a prime, you know, I don't know. I don't know what to call it. I was going to say battleground. It's not. The kids weren't fighting. It's a killing field, basically. I mean, that's
Oh,
horrible. And that's why. I mean, I would never send my child to a camp like that ever. I mean, I was actually a brownie. I'm not gonna lie. I never made it to Girl Scouts because I didn't like it. It's just
right.
personally. Um, Yeah, I did go camping with the brownies though when I was a little kid, and I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. It rained. Thank God it rained. So we were. It was at somebody's house, and they put us in tents underneath their carport. So we were close to the house, and it was fine. And there were only, I don't remember how many there were of us, but that was a pretty scary night. It was really scary. I can't imagine being next to a house and being that young.
Yeah, and this is a very secluded area. I mean,
Yeah,
you're
I
like,
mean, I was
yeah,
scared being next to a house. Okay, and
yeah, I wouldn't stay out there, honestly.
no. I'm
I
a
wouldn't.
Bigfoot researcher, and I would be hesitant to stay out there. I don't
I
know, or I might not. I don't know.
I
Um,
got offered by the landowner to be able to go into the facility, and
you did? Have you
yeah,
been?
no, I talked it over with my team, and we don't feel that there's anything really to gain by going there. It's a dark place. It's hard for the family to keep seeing this area where their little girls, were murdered, and
Yes.
what did they go through? Were they afraid? And I felt like enough people has already. If you want to see it, there's YouTube videos out there where people have trespassed and have filmed it. So I just didn't feel like I could bring any light to it by doing that. I felt like
Yeah.
I would bring more pain, and I didn't want to bring pain. I
Yeah.
wanted to bring answers. So we
Yeah.
decided, just not to do that.
Yeah. Well, I'm proud of you for doing that because this is not easy. And yeah, I mean, I have a kid too. You and I both have children, and my son, he's about to be 9 this week. So
Right.
he's around that age. And I, I can't, I have to disassociate myself from this a little bit or a lot because I can't, if um, it's very upsetting.
And that's what I thought a
Yeah, I
lot
think I
about while
froze.
doing
It's
that.
very upsetting.
My little boy,
Hmm.
he's 10.
Yeah.
He's the age of the oldest girl,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
it was they were alone. I mean, they were alone. They were yelling for help. It's just nobody came.
Where were all the adults at, Mike,
They
during that
were on
evening?
the other end of the camp, all of them together. So probably I would say partying. Uh, I know that there was Tylenol with codeine been passed around that night. So
Okay.
they
Oh, well,
were,
codeine will do it. Okay.
yeah,
That kind of stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, you had
Okay.
like 18 year olds watching 8, 9, 10, year olds, and it was party time, no adults. And
Right. Well, well, that's very tragic. Very tragic. Um, okay, so let's go back to the woman who gave you the testimony. Her father was bitten by his brother as he was shapeshifted. Okay, was this like a group activity? Like, did they go in there as a group? Was it a family? Was it a coven or coven? Uh, how
it
big
was,
was this party of people that was in there watching him transform? And was he the only one that had transformed?
he
If you
was the
know.
only one that transformed. Uh, there was family and others. Um, it was a large group of this town. I mean, it was almost the town was involved. It's like one of those things that everybody knew what was going on. And, I would say that the sheriff was probably involved. She said the sheriff was at their house, and her dad, and the sheriff, and
Hmm.
they're burning, clothes together, and they're doing these sweats. She
Yeah.
said they would do a lot of sweats.
What is
And,
a sweat? Is that a sweat lodge kind of thing?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, they go in and they have their hot rocks and they do their ceremonies and they smoke their peyote and then they come out and then sometimes they'll go right into the cold creek or whatever, a cleansing, and then they would do their rituals. They would have their fires and their black magic. Now there was two shamans that was coming that were black magic. One was from a town that was nearby, and then the other one was the one that Jean Leroy Hart was actually staying with, and they
Right.
were teaching people, black magic and how to transform, how to summon this Gugwe, how to control the Gugwe, and just a lot of, well, one of the guys, and it can't be proven, but they found little girl panties and
Hmm.
trinkets and stuff in his house, and they believe he may be linked to more murders other than these now. So it opened up a lot of things that this came out. They think
Hmm.
that one of them had maybe done a lot more murders than what just the Girl Scouts, and hopefully this guy will be indicted. Is the hope? I hope he is.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you also said that throughout the when this case was kind of blown open and it was in the public, or there was someone being tried for the murders, it was very divided in this town, and it was the Native American families versus like the Caucasian people there, right? Like it
Yeah,
was a
because
town divided.
yeah, they felt like that whenever the OSBI and the police and all came in, they felt like that they were trying to pin this on Gene Leroy Hart. He was an Indian, and he was
Hmm.
a track star, a football star in school. Everybody knew him. He was an athlete, and they felt like, okay, these, and white people are not accepted up there. We're not
Hmm.
accepted, and I'm Cherokee, and they said
Yeah.
that I wasn't enough Cherokee to matter. So I mean, if you're
Wow.
not the full blood, they don't want you there, and they felt like they were trying to pin it on him. And if you go back and look, it kind of sounds that way because he was 35 miles away from the town. They were trying to say that he was traveling, through the woods 35 miles back and forth every night. It didn't make sense. None
Hmm.
of the fingerprints were his. The footprints weren't his. They had semen, wasn't his.
Hmm.
So there was a lot of things that they thought, hey, they're in here trying to find, because Gene Leroy Hart supposedly had an affair with the sheriff's wife, and the
Okay.
sheriff was mad at him, and it was just like
Oh
everybody
my
down
gosh.
there was related or knows each other, and
Or having an affair with each other or something.
oh yeah,
That's
it's yeah,
that's rough.
it's some weird stuff.
That's rough. I mean, the subject matter is so sensitive. I'd say, I mean, I can't believe this is not all over all these true crime shows and things like that. But I know it's tough doing, talking about the murders of 3 innocent little girls.
Yeah.
We have a good question in the chat. Let's see let me see if I can find it. Sea Duke is asking, how many other Girl Scouts were at the camp? I mean, were there a bunch of other little girls there that night?
I believe the count was 112.
112?
Yeah,
Good grief.
Yeah, 112 girls, and I believe there was 48 staff and 1 ranger. They had a ranger there too that night.
I'm blown away. I didn't realize there were that many kids there, and that much staff for this to happen. And so there were 3 girls per tent. I'm assuming 3 or 4 girls.
There was supposed to be 4, but for some reason that night there was only 3 placed in the tent where they were murdered. And there was a note found a week prior to them showing up that said, we're on a mission to kill 3 little girls. And 3 little girls were placed in a tent the furthest away, and the youngest little girls, and 3 are murdered. That's what
it just sounds that there's an insider going there, like an inside job kind of thing. That's what it sounds like.
Had to be.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't take a genius to figure this out. Okay. I mean, Sherlock Holmes or whatever. Like that's when you know the underlying, truth behind a lot of this and the ritualistic stuff and the black magic that was going on, the threats, it starts to make sense.
And this is a large camp. I mean, they had an in-ground pool out there. They had big places where they would eat, cafeterias. You can Google it online, and there's people that went in and filmed a lot of it. And it gives you an idea of how large. It's a really large facility, but it's spread out through the woods. It'd be a scary place at night. I guarantee you, it would be a place you wouldn't want to be.
No. I gotta say, Candy has a comment in the chat. She said she got kicked out of Brownies because she thought it was ridiculous to set a table. She let the woman know. Well, guess what, Candy? I quit Brownies for a couple of reasons, but one of them was I was just bored of making bird feeders out of peanut butter and pine cones. I was like, is this all we're gonna do? Okay. I thought we were going camping and looking for Bigfoot. Obviously, I knew back then it was way more to going camping and being in nature than making bird feeders out of peanut butter. So I know that's a commercial break there, everybody. Sorry. But okay, so let's get back to the Gugway, Mike. Okay, so the Gugway, had there been any other murders in this town and things? I know that one of the gentlemen was torn to shreds, one of the uncle, I guess, that passed away. Were there any other suspected attacks on people with this Gugway or the shape-shifting men that were in this town running? Were they running rampant or what?
Well, no, there wasn't any more reported, but they do say that if you go down there, you can still hear it down in the Girl Scouts property. They say you can hear the vocalization of it, and the elders say that it protects the land. The black dog is supposedly seen down there from time to time, still running on the property. And then, they believe that is Jean Leroy Hart, running free now. Whenever they arrested Jean Leroy Hart, the guy that arrested him, he tapped him on the bottom of the foot. And one of the agents said, "Why did you tap the bottom of his foot?" And he said, "Well, I took his magic." And,
oh my God.
And whenever he went to prison, he died of a heart attack. It wasn't long after he went to prison. And one person said, "Well, if he was a shapeshifter, why didn't he just turn into that bird and fly away from the prison?" And that guy said, "Don't you remember? I took his magic. He no longer had it."
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so he took his magic just by touching him. Energy transfer is a real thing, Mike. It's a real thing, and I've gotten a little more selective as to who I let touch me these days. Okay.
Yeah,
for things like that. I'm not saying I got magic, but I'm saying I don't know what people, there are a lot of people with very bad intentions in this world, and this magic stuff is real. Okay. And it doesn't matter if you believe it or not. There are other people that do believe it.
Well, it
and
reminded
are
me of
dedicated to it.
the movie Fallen. You know,
Hmm.
I don't know if
Which
you've
movie
seen
was
it.
that?
It's called Fallen. It's got
Fallen. Oh,
yeah,
that's right.
Denzel Washington and all. You know, where they would touch each other and transfer the demon.
I
You
mean,
know.
I've seen, you and I have discussed this before, and I think I mentioned that I have seen an entity go, and I didn't physically see it with my eyes, like jump from body to body, but I knew that energy, I knew that spirit, and it was going from person to person that I knew at one
Oh,
point in my life.
I've seen it. Um, I've I was, you know, it scared me to death. I've seen a demon, and it scared me bad. I was young, and you know, it it was in my aunt's house, and I saw it. My mom and my aunt, all of us at the same time, and I was being stupid. I guess I don't know, kind of dared it because I didn't believe in that stuff at the time, and I was sitting in the front room, and she had called me, and it was just me and my aunt at the time, and you could see the shadow come out and go back, and then come out and go back, and I was making every excuse in the book. I was like, it's a tree limb outside, it's the phone book moving with the fan, you know. And by the time we'd moved everything, it was still doing it. So being a smart aleck, I walk over and I'm like, well,
Yeah.
here, if you want to go across the hallway, I'll open the door for you. And I opened the door, and a head down to the shoulders went across the hallway. And I
Oh my
left.
God.
I'm not gonna lie, I left. I was like, I
Uh,
didn't know how to process it.
was
I
it
didn't.
was it a shadow, or was it like a person with a
Well,
face?
it was a. You could tell that it was an older man. You know, back how people used to cut their hair, how they would, you know, comb it over, and you could see a lot of
Yeah.
detail. And it was only down to maybe the top of the shoulders, and that's all you could see. And it went
Okay.
across the hallway,
Oh my
and it
gosh.
was, oh yeah, I left.
Okay.
I was like,
That's creepy.
that's not supposed to be there, you know.
No. Oh my God. My friend Mimi's in the chat. Hey, Mimi. Hey, good to see you here. Yeah, that is really creepy. I've seen a lot of weird stuff myself, Mike. A lot of ghosts. I've seen real life ghosts. I've seen cryptids. I've seen aliens. You name it. I've seen some weird stuff. But it's never fun seeing that stuff in your house. Okay.
Oh no, no,
The
no.
house, that's like the worst place to ever see it, actually, especially if you have kids.
Oh, it freaked me out. You know, whenever I was little, my first encounter with something like that, I believed in the tooth fairy, and we lived in this house, and I kept telling my mom and dad, I was like, my bedroom's haunted, my bedroom's haunted, and my dad was like, no, go to bed, go to bed, go to bed. You know, and they would make me go to bed.
Yeah.
And
Oh
one
no.
night I lost my tooth, and this lady in a red, like, I guess it would be like a gown or something that a woman would wear to bed. She walked into my room, and of course I assumed it was the tooth fairy because I believed in the tooth fairy at the time. And she lifted up my head, and she kind of moved, and she went into my closet. And I told my mom about it, and they were like, no, there's nobody in there. Well, my tooth was still there and no money. Well,
Oh
later
no.
on, yeah, later on, I'm into adulthood. Me and my dad, we were building houses. My dad used to build houses, and we ran into this guy, and he was telling us he had lived in that house after we did. And he's like, my daughter Amy will not sleep in that first bedroom because she says there's a lady in there that comes out and tucks her in. I was like, I told you, Dad, there was something in there.
I told you. It's like, I told you,
Oh,
Dad.
and that's why I
Did you
tell
ever get
everybody,
any money for that tooth? That's the question.
no, and
Marie,
and I
did you
told
get?
everybody that's why I tell people listen to your kids. If they say they're seeing
Yes.
something, don't say they're not, and say, you know, oh, it's just your imagination or whatever, because they may really be experiencing something in there.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to sleep on bunk beds with my sister, and I had the top bunk, and I would put stuffed animals along there was like an opening between the mattress and the railing, and I would put stuffed animals and
Yeah.
pillows along, because I was afraid something was going to grab me. And you know what? I wouldn't put it past my mom and dad to have grabbed my feet. Okay, you sent me a video. Somebody grabbed your feet from under a bed. It reminded me of when I was a kid. I wouldn't put it past anybody. And I think I did that to my sister and brother. I'm sure I grabbed them through the rail at some point. But that's scary stuff. And you know, as a kid, we shouldn't really play with our kids like that. It's
I
fun for a
did.
good laugh, but
My,
it's
my little
it
boy,
it starts kids.
he wants to hunt these things so bad. Every time I go out, he's like, "Dad, let me go. Dad, let me go. I want to see one. I want to see one."
Yeah.
He probably wouldn't
Oh
if he
yeah.
did.
Right. I know. Yeah, my son, I don't know. I don't take my son bigfooting. I've taken him once, but not at night. Like he doesn't get out there where we do research and stuff. We don't. We it's just too young. It's too dangerous. Now
Yeah.
we have a question from Auntie Ventum. Did the girls hear noises? So I'm assuming that's maybe the other little girls that survived. Did they report hearing anything?
Not no, not that I could find. The only reports that I could find was just Carla Wilhite had heard the guttural noises. Some other staff members said they had heard a little girl crying, yelling for her mommy. Um,
Okay.
and another little girl was screaming,
Oh
and
my
but none of that
gosh,
was ever checked on.
that's really sad.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think a lot of us, not myself. I did go camping when I was a brownie. Okay, I did do that. But a lot of us have fond. A lot of people have fond memories of being out camping, but it was very scary. And for a lot of people, for parents, I think it would be like a rite of passage. Like, I'm gonna let my son go off with the Boy Scouts, or I'm gonna let my daughter go off with the Girl Scouts, and do an overnight camp. How harmless is that? It's like there's parents there. Um, I don't know. I mean, I went to church camp when I was a kid. Okay. I used to go to church camp with my cousins. And I remember crying every night. And my older cousins, Rebecca, she was a camp counselor. And I remember I think she was having to call my mom and my grandmother to let them know that I was crying. I didn't want to be there. I just didn't want, I was the youngest out of all my cousins. So, but yeah, there was just something about it. I think that, having my cousins there was a little safer for me, but yeah, I do. I just remembered that I had forgotten about that. I must have blocked that out of my memory. But yeah, it can be pretty traumatizing. Be very traumatizing. So what is the update today, Mike? So you said that there's the investigation has kind of been opened again, and somebody might be getting charged now.
yeah.
Give me like the latest news.
One person we believe is still alive.
Uh-huh.
That was involved actually directly with the murders. We're still looking to try to see if what we can do with him. Uh, as far as everything else, the family has asked that the case remain open in case something else new was to come up that it could still be added to the case. So they're leaving it open. What's
Okay.
weird is none of the family members say that they've asked for it to be remained open. So I don't know if that's just something they have decided to do to stop people from filing FOIAs. Uh, there's a lot of stuff that it would probably make a lot of people look bad. So I don't expect the
Oh yeah.
case ever. I don't think it'll ever be closed. I think that it will always be an open case. There's still rituals being performed there to this day. Um, watch your kids. This stuff is real. It's still happening. It's on a different level. It's not like it used to be. It's I would say more advanced at the way they're doing it. They're doing a lot of things out there that's just as bad to the children. And like what Jessica said, they're going missing every day. And all it takes is for you just to turn your back and they can be gone. And these people, they have plans and ways of doing this. They're good at what they do.
And they obviously have cave systems that they're working out of. I mean, if they're doing these rituals in caves, it's very corrupted. Okay,
Yeah.
we live in a very scary time right now. This has been going on since the beginning of time. Taking children, doing things with them. Um, so this is nothing new. It's just being exposed. I know I was oblivious to it for a long time, and I think there's been a change in the wind. I think a lot of a lot of things are being exposed now, and people are coming forward now. Uh,
Yeah.
just like your guest that you had on, uh, the eyewitness. So
The other case I'm looking at now, it's two little girls, and uh, it happened here in Oklahoma again, and their bodies haven't been found. So, I mean, there's a lot of dark places around the world still that people aren't traveling. I mean, these areas are, your bigger police officers have, they have a better resources. There's still little towns with little police agencies that don't have the resources and do not go to these places. You can disappear in these places and never be found. I mean, there's old oil wells, there's old caves. I mean, there's been bodies stuck down old oil wells and capped off, with concrete, and they've never been found. So, I mean, just watch your kids because what they'll go through if they're caught will be terrible. I lost your audio.
Oh, sorry. I'm just sitting here talking. You gotta I'm trying this new thing. It's called lip syncing. Like you syncing. You
Oh,
just have
yeah.
to read my lips.
I'm not good at it.
I'm sorry. Actually, I have somebody who decided, one of the neighbors just decided to either cut a tree down with a chainsaw or blow their leaves. I'm not sure. We don't even have leaves right now. So God
Oh,
knows
see,
what's going on out there. I've had birds try to get in my window today, and I have someone blowing their, and it sounds like they're right under my window, which is weird.
if you turn the
So
camera on, everything starts happening.
it
Everybody
is.
gets
So
live.
I had to hit that mute button, and then I forgot. So thank you. Yeah, it's this is this has been fantastic being able to talk about this. It's been very sad, okay, very sad and
Right.
horrible. But just to cover the topic of cryptids, of shapeshifters, I know we're not supposed to say that word, but skinwalkers. I'm gonna say it. Um, Stuff like this. Now there's a different. We're not calling this a skinwalker, right? We're calling this more of a shapeshifter. That first of all attacked the uncle, right? That was more of a shapeshifter type thing. It wasn't a skinwalker, or is there a difference?
They were calling the same thing when I would talk to
Okay,
them. It's just one would say one word, the other one would say the other. But as far as like the transformation and what would happen, was the same thing. But
okay,
there had to be a physical change in order for the bite to not be human. I mean, there has to be some kind of a manipulation or something happened.
yeah, okay. Well, it's just interesting because, like I said, not a lot of people talk about this publicly,
Right.
and everybody is super interested in the Skinwalker phenomenon, especially since the whole Skinwalker Ranch stuff
Right.
came out. And yeah, and my team researches an area that we call Skinwalker Ranch of the South, and just a lot of high strangeness going on out there. And but we have not dealt with shapeshifters yet. Okay, that's not something that has come across my path physically yet.
Well, and they even tell you whenever I was there, they're like, because one of the team members is a female, and they're like, she can't be here, and we're like,
Okay,
what's wrong with? And they're like, the women are in a lot more danger than the men.
okay,
The Gugway, and they talked about it. It searches for women, and women aren't safe, and it's dark stuff. It's very dark.
wow. Okay, so me being bait out in the field's probably not a good idea anymore, huh? For the
That's
Bigfoot
that's what they
stuff.
say. They say it's very dangerous to be a
Yeah,
woman to be out because you're targeted.
yeah.
And even the elders have told me, even when I was a kid, they were like, if you're going spook hunting and you want to get scared, you got to have some girls with you, or nothing's going to happen.
Wow.
So yeah,
Okay. Well, that's something to take into consideration. I'm not going to quit being bait. Okay, I'm not going to. I'm still going out there. Um, well, we recently had a string. My mother kept reiterating this to me the other day. She was saying there were like 30 kids or something, 15 to 30 kids that went missing out of somewhere. Was it Ohio? I think it's all over the news right now. I don't watch the news, so please forgive me. But a lot of children in 1 month went missing. Um, and I think kids have gone missing quite often for quite some time. But this was all over the news recently, so makes you wonder. Makes you wonder where all these kids went.
they're pretty much, I think, harvested.
Okay. Okay, and I've also opened myself up to I've been doing conferences the past month, and I've met a lot of new people that are in secret space program kind of stuff and things like that. And I've heard some stories. I've heard some stories about underground bases and children being down there and chimeras and cryptids and all that kind of stuff. And it's very heartbreaking to hear this. So we're not going to get into detail about that, but I think this is a great place to end this today because I think we covered it all for the most part. Mike, I want to thank you so much for being here. This has been
Pleasure.
fantastic.
Yep,
Yeah.
my pleasure. I enjoy it every time.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I hope you're going to come back. I've got goosebumps down my legs right now. I'm like, oh, man, this is a great show. Where can people find you, Mike?
Just abnormal investigations. That's usually the only thing I do. I just run that my little
Okay.
space I hide at.
There's your space to hide it. Well, how can people support you? Do you have subscriptions and do you have a Patreon? How can people support
I
you? Because
just
you're doing fantastic work.
I just do memberships, and I have a
Okay.
PayPal. That's the only thing I've ever used. And
Okay.
of course, we have since I've done the investigation, I've gained 1,000 subscribers in a week. So a lot of people are giving me a lot more information on this. See, I didn't cover this subject until this happened, and a lot of my new subscribers now are saying, "Hey, this like what you're saying. This is happening to kids everywhere. You know,
It is. It
and
is.
it's sad."
It is. And actually, from what the one of the guys from one of the conferences I was speaking at, he said that there are people that are underground that are in breeding programs just to have children
I know I've got a
to
friend.
harvest and stuff. Yeah.
He
It's
drives a
dark.
semi, and he recorded a facility for me, and he drives his semi into a cave, and you would be surprised how large these caves are just in the mountains. And he makes deliveries there. You're talking cities under mountains, and he
Oh
recorded it
yeah.
for me, and he's like, "Check this out." And I'm talking. The semi looks little inside of here,
Oh yeah.
so it's
I've seen
amazing.
videos of those inside those caves. We have a whole underground. We have underground cities all over the United States. They're all over the world. Yeah, big
It's
cities, big
amazing.
facilities. I think it would be shocking for the normal everyday person to find out a lot of this stuff, but it happens. So we're just scratching the surface. We're here on the surface, and we barely know what's going on around us. So, like you always say, keep your head on a swivel and don't be somebody's dinner, right? Or is that how you say it?
Yeah, that's it for sure. Yeah, because
Don't be
the the
something's
the,
dinner, y'all.
the more you know,
Right.
the more dangerous you are to them.
That's right. That's right. And that's why we're doing the show today. And that's why I wanted to have you on so we could discuss this. It is difficult and hard to talk about these things. And so thank you. Thank you so much, Mike. And
Thank you.
everybody, please go subscribe to Abnormal Investigations on YouTube and support Mike. Y'all get a subscription. It's worth it. Okay. And yeah, I'm gonna have Mike. You come back on with me sometime. You guys, please tune in tomorrow night. I'm gonna be at 8 p.m. Eastern. I've got a remote viewing show. I'll be announcing that target. I kind of already announced it, but I'll announce it later today. And I want to thank everybody for being here today. I'm sorry I didn't get to all the comments. There's a lot of people in here today, so thank you guys so much. And yeah, I will see y'all tomorrow night, and then also join me this weekend on Spaced Out Radio. I have Jeremiah Fountain and Nick Valente coming on together Saturday night. We're gonna have a blast. It's gonna be an awesome show, so y'all come join me. All right, Mike. Well, thanks. I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you for all you do. It is a pleasure doing a show with you today. I'll see you
All
later.
right.
All
Thank
right,
you for having
bye,
me.
y'all.